Hi everyone, I'm Jayce. Welcome to Freelance Creative Exchange, where every episode we speak to freelancers about freelancing and the gig economy. And I'm very happy today to be able to invite two of our freelancers here with us today. So I have Alicia here with me.
Hi.
And I have Wayne here with me as well.
Hello.
Alicia is actually a food stylist, photographer, recipes developers. She's also running a blog to actually share on her recipes as well as some of the travel guides. And on the other hand, we have Wayne, industry veteran. Can I say that?
You sound so old.
Author, writers, copywriters, things like that. But I'll let them introduce themselves formally to our audience. So, Alicia, would you like to share with us more?
Okay, yeah. So I just started my blog 2 years ago, and then slowly I try to share more of my favorite recipes. Most of them are influenced by my mom, or places that I've had, dinner in restaurants or cafe. So yeah, slowly when I share these recipes, eventually I develop photography skills and styling tips from the internet, from Pinterest and Instagram. So yeah, and throughout the process I progress, and finally there are people start asking me do you want to style some of our cuisine in the restaurant? And then slowly, with that affirmation and validation from the clients, I move out from my full-time job as a media producer, and right now I'm a full-time food stylist and blogger.
Right. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Wayne, how about yourself? What's the story?
My story is that I've been a writer since primary 3.
Okay.
Professionally, not since primary 3. I've wanted to write since I was a kid, and I think it was the early 2000s I started professionally working as a writer, first with magazines, did some business writing, then moved into what is now known as SG Magazine, did some writing for them. After that, I transitioned into marketing and advertising. Been in there since 2009, I think. And in 2014, I published my first book. Over there. Okay. Since then, every year I've been releasing either, books or comics since then. Yeah.
Wow. So as a freelancer or actually as a full-timer?
I started freelancing actually, if I remember this right. I think it was probably 5 years ago. I think I started regularly freelancing, well, technically for the second time about 5 years ago. I tried freelancing a bit earlier in my career, but was very immature about it. And I think that lasted me a couple of months, and then I learned my lesson, and then eventually became a full-time freelancer about 5 years ago.
Right. So you, after graduation, you went into a full-time job, and then after that you freelance, and then for a few months you go back to full-time,
Yes,
and then now you're back to freelance again.
Back to freelance again, yes.
Right. So we roughly can guess, his age in that sense, but definitely, a seasoned freelancer.
Yeah.
But how about you, Ellie? How about yourself?
I'm still a baby in this freelance industry. So I graduated from uni, and then I worked in a university as a producer for close to 3 years. And then, so this is my 9th month freelancing. I'm still figuring things out, still exploring who I am, what I'm comfortable, what I'm not comfortable. I've got a lot to learn from veterans.
So what made you decided, after working as an employee in that sense, for 3 years, what made you want to take the plunge or to actually, come out and say that, I'm going to be a freelancer?
Okay, so I first had a thought a year ago, and I realized that maybe it is not the time yet. I mean, there's always this voice in me telling me that, okay, maybe you should go out and, try it out, because there are days where, after lunch, you're at work, you're just looking through Pinterest, Instagram, you're distracted, and you realize that, wow, these people are, making a career out of food styling as a blogger. So I think a food blogger in the West, maybe in UK and US, it's not so much of reviewing the food places that maybe some of the Singapore food bloggers do. So for them, they are more housewives or just people that are passionate in cooking and making like beautiful food at home to serve for their loved ones. And then I realized that that is like a career that I can consider, but maybe right here in Singapore it's not so common yet.
So do you deliberately chose to go towards food, or was it just something that you naturally fall into? Because there could be so many things that you can also focus on, right? Like fashions, lifestyles.
I think food is a little bit more closer to heart because I always go back home for home cooked meals, and throughout that that childhood, I realized that some food is important to you, like it affects your mood. So even if a bad coffee in the morning, it affects your mood. How you deliver a pitch or deliver a presentation if the breakfast or the coffee turns out to be bad. So I guess that sparks my interest, and that's more closer to heart. Maybe for fashion, you spend more money, so it's not very sustainable. And there are always cycles of like fashion, but I think food is always staple and it's always there, and it tells a lot of stories and emotions. And that's where I realized that I want to focus on that. And sometimes a lot of people say that why you just work on food, just focus on food. But I think that food, there are so many different types of food, like from rice to like noodles and like Western cuisine to desserts. So desserts is an area that it's my no zone because I'm not good at baking. So you see, like there are so many different types of dishes across the world, and everyone has their own interpretation of like noodles. So I think it is still a universe that I want to explore. And yes, and there are days that maybe too much food, I will still get inspiration from like documentaries or like nature. So I think going across different like industries, like maybe even on like books, and it gives you some inspiration on how you can create a dish or like a photo.
Go on, question. How is your coffee?
Okay.
Just nice, just the right amount of sugar.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. So, Wayne, how about you? Now let's move on to industry veteran.
I have to say, no, but that's the thing I have to say is that she's like, I'll learn from the veterans. I could learn from her as well.
Of course, right? I mean, especially
always
from our generation, learning from the next generation.
Yes, our generation. Yes. I don't feel so alone now. Thank you. Yes.
So, so what made you decided, or rather, I would say, even in our freelance pool, right? I think copywriters, right, tend to prefer freelancing, right? I think for yourself, is this something that at the back of your mind you have always wanted to do this, or actually are there some reasons that cause you to become a freelancer?
Odd enough, I think the deciding factor were my books. Because the first book was released 2014, and at that point I had probably been freelancing for about a year. That sounds about right. Probably about a year then, and I had done the book and I was very happy, and it was a childhood dream come true.
Okay.
So for me...
So you mean from childhood you already aspired
to
write a book?
I wasn't kidding when I said I've been writing since primary 3.
And who has been reading your book? Who's your loyal supporter?
Loyal supporter of this book? Or no, I haven't been published since primary 3. But I've been writing since primary 3. Making my own comics using foolscap paper and all that. First major story I wrote was for primary 3 composition. I wrote basically what amounts to Ninja Turtle fan fiction.
Ninja Turtle
fan fiction. And then my teacher was like, this is very good.
You expose your age already. Ninja Turtle.
I know Ninja Turtles.
She knows Ninja Turtles too.
Michelangelo.
I was always more of a Raphael guy, but not fair enough. But I wanted to write books since I was a kid. And when this was done and I was happy, I thought to myself, okay, that's the one thing, it's done, good, accomplish.
Checklist. Check.
That's the thing though. What they don't tell you is the moment you write your first book, it's very addictive. And you keep wanting to write more and more and more and more. And eventually, like, there are times where you literally have to tell yourself to slow down. But after the first book, I had been freelancing for about a year. And I was actually thinking about going back into full-time. But then I read something from a writer, I can't remember the exact quote, this comic writer called Brian Michael Bendis, and he said, one of the most important things you have to do as a writer or as a creator is to make it your priority in life. If this is something you want to do, if this is something that you love, you make it your priority. So freelancing came about, or freelancing became the norm after I published a book, and I spoke to my boss, boss/friend, and I told him, I can't take this job. I'm planning to go freelancing because I want to focus an equal amount of time on writing my books as I do with copywriting and stuff like that. Thankfully, it's a nice coincidence that my boss/friend also has art in my book. He's done art in my book. I keep showing it off as if, like some kind of...
You should be proud.
Yeah, but no, the way I'm showing it off is like one of those TV salesmen. It's like, if you order now, you can get
discount, 20% discount, yeah.
But that's the thing. So he had contributed art to it, and he creates his own stuff as well. So he understood where I was coming from, and he said, okay, look, what you can do is, you come into the office. So it's freelance / kind of part-time thing. So he said, you come into the office 2.5 days a week. The rest of the week, that's yours. Go do your thing. Go make more books. And since then, that's been my norm. There's always been that core of work that I've got going on there. And then, for other freelance work that comes in, that stuff goes towards whether it's printing costs when I want to self-publish my books, or simple things like going on holiday, or further down the road I'm looking at going overseas and going to like comic conventions and pushing my stuff down there. So that's where my freelance life has helped my writing life.
Right. So going back to Ali, so in terms of starting your own blog, starting your I would say career in terms as a food blogger, food stylist, food photographer, what are some of the challenges that you have faced when you first start this career choice?
So I think when I first started, maybe in January, February, the reason why I quit my job is also because I have a friend who came up with her own business. So she started out a business based on meal subscription. She approached me, and then that is my constant project with her. So at least there is a certainty that I have like a monthly income from that, even though it's like a freelance type of work, but it is like a monthly job that I have, and then it helps me to fund, like some of the shoots that I have just on my blog. And then at the same time, I do have some savings. So before I started out, I said, okay, I need to save money. So at least, there are days where, there are just no jobs, and you still can, sustain yourself. And at the same time, I think more people are doing collaborations now. So there are a few, business owners. They just came out, like maybe they sell like groceries online, and maybe sell honey. So they will ask, like, would you want to collaborate with me? And we it's more like a win-win type of thing. Like, everybody just get better together instead of like seeing it as a competition. Like it's always good to help each other. So through that, I just get to know more people and.
Quite interested to find out, right? How do you actually, attempt to actually create a sustainable career out of this bloggings and this food styling kind of career?
So from the start, blogging can be a little bit, not consistent in terms of income. So when I first, figure out that I want to quit my full-time job after my friend just introduced like this job for me, because she set up her business on meal subscription. So how it works is that consumers, they will subscribe to a meal plan. They can choose 3 out of 4 recipes, and they can just learn how to cook by following a recipe card. So my part comes in as a recipe developer and also a photographer, just to take a step-by-step photo for them, to guide them to prepare, like, let's say a tom yum chicken soup. So that job is my constant source of income, and that funds me to come up with sometimes like collaborations collaboration or like wedding shoots. So sometimes like somehow I met people from the wedding industry because they always like to do conceptual like shoot on top of just you know day-to-day weekend like wedding shoot. So sometimes they play with like food styling and they would ask like, oh, do I want to come on board? So for that collaboration to happen, because it's just being creative, everyone just want to just be creative, and that collaboration will definitely come out from your own pocket. So like this source of income will just fund collaboration, because that's how you keep your passion going, because there will be a point of time you just take photos and that's it. Like there's nothing like I would just want a table full of red food. So that type of shoot keeps your passion and going, and you meet like-minded like creatives from different different crafts and different skill set. And I think blogging after like maybe to make it like really full-time blogging just this year, recently there are more people like approaching me, so like maybe like big brands like maybe FairPrice or like Luzerne, like the ceramic ware, they're interested to work with my recipes, my style. And I think because with all this inquiries coming in, you realize that okay, maybe I'm heading the right direction. Because when you're out alone, and most of my friends around me, they're having a full-time job, so you're not really sure like whether you're heading towards the right direction until someone gives you some acknowledgement that I like your work, and that's when you know that okay, this is the right direction.
Having some validation as well. So when have you hear what Alicia talks about how she actually prepare herself before she go into freelancing? How about yourself? Were that your experience as well when you first started?
No, not at all. First time I went into freelancing, I was young and stupid. Now I'm old and less stupid.
Wiser.
Yes, wiser. Yeah. Wiser, not less stupid. No, but the first time I went in, and this is really the case of you can learn from the veteran, but the veteran can also learn from people who are, let's say, younger than me. But that's the thing. I went in half-cocked the first time. I worked like maybe 2 full-time jobs. I thought to myself, I'm going to go freelance. And it's a very romanticized idea of freelance. Like just sitting around there with like a laptop, and back then I used to smoke, so like cigarette in my mouth and a glass of whiskey next to me. And, that was my idea of it. I'm going to work from home. The job was come rolling in. Didn't save up any money. Didn't have like a core piece of freelance business. None of that. Just went out there, lasted for like maybe 5 months. And then with my tail between my legs, just went back to full-time work very quietly. I think I'll go back to full-time work now. But and I think I needed to go through that. One, because young and stupid people do need to learn their lesson. But when I came in the second time around for freelance, that's it. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I needed savings. Had that settled. I needed core work. I was going to find that first, but then thankfully, the stars aligned. My boss was like, I'll give you some core work, and then you can freelance from there. And time management, a lot of that was time management as well. That's one thing, to be fair, that I learned when I was in when I was doing full-time, because I was writing my books full-time, and I had to learn how to balance that out, because you come back from work at the end of the day, you're just tired and you don't want to do anything. And so I had to be a little bit disciplined down there, which was something I never thought I would be. So time management, having that core piece of work, and just understanding what you're getting into. All lessons that took me about 10 years to learn, that you figured out on your first try.
I think it's different circumstances.
Definitely.
But I can see that some of your books, right, are very much illustration based.
Yes.
Is that deliberate, I would say, effort by you to do this? Or?
Not really. I mean, even the first book. In the first book, I'm just gonna show off a little bit down here. The first book is mostly prose, so you got all that. But it kind of started. Well, it's got illustrations as well. But this all happened for 2 reasons. One was, I grew up reading comics. As much as I grew up reading books, I grew up reading comics. So I've always wanted to tell stories and work with artists, whether it's my own prose and then accompanying art or
Right.
comics. So main goal first was to get my book out. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do the book, but I'm also going to work with artists on this. And the other, which brings me to the other side of it, which was I wanted to work with friends. And I had a lot of friends. I still have a lot of friends who are illustrators. So I ended up working with them to produce accompanying art for the book. And then that sort of transitioned later on into me I'm still doing prose stuff. But then as I met more artists, I started doing comic work as well. So then the output started being like kind of a 50-50 split from there.
I also know that you'll be actually moderating a comics artist panel at the upcoming Singapore Toy Game and Comics Conventions.
Yes, that's
so
right.
do you think, because of your publications, right, that has to do with a fusion of words and illustrations that cause you to actually, become the moderator of the panels, or?
That's actually exactly it. That's how I pitched myself. I went to the organizers and I told them the panel was specifically called "So You Think You Can Draw?" What it takes to become a comic artist, and I can't draw anything beyond stick figures, and not even very good stick figures. But the panel was specifically called "How to Become a Comic Artist," and if there's anything I do understand about comics, it's understanding how to work with artists and how much of comics is carried by the artist, because it's a visual medium. So, and a lot of people in comics have said, when they've debated, which one's more important, the writer or the artist?
Yeah.
And the way I see it is, if you don't want to collaborate with your artist, if you want to just full creative control, write a novel. Don't do comics. Because what's the point in working with someone if you're not genuinely working with them?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very great examples, because like what Alicia has earlier mentioned about collaborations, and that's what we see a lot of our freelancers as well, right? So because freelancers have very specific skill sets, so meaning to say they can't be good at everything. But when you work as a team, that's where miracle will happen, creative will come in, and things like that. So following on, right, Alicia, just want to understand, so how do you leverage on your skills, right, to actually kind of create your own personal brand, personal styles across your different social media platforms, for your craft?
Okay, so I think through coming up with style and brand, I think it takes a while to develop them, because I think earlier there are always different type of styles, like artists, they have different type of interpretation, expression. So for me, when I started out, I would always follow, I would say copy, but you just get inspired by someone else's style. And I mean, we are all different individuals, so whatever you replicate, you would never be the same, because the setting, the environment, the personality is different. So I came up with like a so-called a skeleton of my color palette. So I think on Instagram, it's always nice if you were to curate the whole feed. So when you look at it, like someone were to look at the grid, in the grid style, they were like, oh, it looks very similar, seems very nice to the eye. So with that, so I choose a few colors that I really like. So my main colors are like blue, green, a little bit of pink. So just a bit more neutral colors to reflect like my personality and just day to day, because I'm not a very loud person. I'm just a bit toned down and more not too loud. So and then you need that consistency of bring yourself out in the market, because they're always better than you, and they're always it's good that people are always better than you, because you always learn from people, and it's good to have talented people in the industry. So then that's how you draw support and reference from their work. And I think through all the resources online, there are more people who are willing to share. So there are so many podcasts right now, and then there's so many like online resources where you can just purchase it online. Like you don't have to fly all the way to an instructor's like workshop to attend the class. You can just watch it online. So when I started out, like, you know, knowing my brand and having a background in marketing when I was in poly, it helps me to, you know, learn how to position myself, because you can't cater to the mass market. I mean, we're not all McDonald's. Yeah, you know, we can't just, you know, cater to the young and all. So I think it takes time for me to realize that, okay, I should just stick to this. I shouldn't be like looking at what others are doing and it's nice, but sometimes you need to know what aligns to your soul and to your subconscious. Yes, and then it's only like lately I realized, okay, this is how I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna stick to it. So if people like yourself, people will just come to you. Yeah, I mean, like same for like Wayne, they're always like different type of like comic style. Yeah. So if people really like it, they will just, you know, keep coming back for you.
Yeah. So following that, Wayne, do you think that this is actually your style, or actually how will you describe your style as a writer?
I actually definitely agree with you, because, you know, when I started writing, I was, first of all, there was the Ninja Turtles fan fiction, but then like years later on, a lot of my stuff was like, it was very much in the same vein of writers that I used to read. So, you know, your old sci-fi stuff, you know, speculative fiction, a little bit of fantasy here and there. And that's where I began. And then my style just started to evolve. And like you said, it's not like every story has been told. In some form or another, every story has been told. But it's what you bring to the table. So it's my personality that's in there. I mean, when the first book came out, I came up with a marketing phrase for it. I didn't want to say it was sci-fi, because it's not sci-fi, but it's not like straightforward literature. So the phrase I used was what was it? Speculative fiction. No, sorry, it was slice of life stories through the lens of genre fiction. Okay. And then I immediately just ruined the illusion. I went, well, that's a very fancy way of saying my stories. But that's the thing, it gave people an idea of what to expect. But at the same time also, like you said, staying true to who I am. So that to me, yeah, you're right. I mean, this is my style. It's constantly evolving, but from the moment the first book came out, and I was lucky that I published later on in my life and not like in my early 20s, stuff like that, because, you know, I was a bit more sure of who I was. And I think in that sense, when the first book came out, I was lucky because it's still, I mean, things have changed, but it's still reflective of who I am. And just since then, there's that base, but I've been evolving since then.
Yeah, so Alicia actually focused a lot on the social media side and things like that to actually communicate to the audiences, you know, the potential clients. So how about as a writer, what are the avenues you think are the most effective for a freelance writer to reach out, you know, to the potential clients or even collaborators?
Well, okay, from the copywriting side of things, I'm in that very weird place where it's not exactly old school, not exactly new school, where when I left full-time work to do freelancing, my starting point, and till this day, this is where it's grown from, was I look back at my full-time work and I look at ex-colleagues that I had and where they've moved to, and I start from there. So I get the contacts from there, and then my contact list starts building and building and building and building. And then it gets to a point in time where, you know, you'll get a call or you get emails like, I know this guy who wants you to write for this, or you know, I have this project and you're perfect for it. Yeah, come in, and then just talk to the bosses and all that. I mean, for me, it's, at least for the copywriting side of things, it's a case of just keeping the dialogue open, you know, making contacts. I don't want to say stuff like schmoozing, because that sounds super pretentious, but it's a case of networking. I mean, that's the best thing I can think of. It's networking and showing them that you're genuine about it. It's not, you can't just go down there as like, oh, I'm networking with you just because I want a job. I'm networking with you because, you know, you'll joke and you'll go for drinks and all that. But at the end of the day, if you need a writer, they come to you. For the books, however, that's an interesting thing, because it's I don't think there's any right way to promote books and comics here. It's a constantly evolving and constantly changing approach to things. You know, there's your usual stuff like, I'll do events at bookstores. So I've done events at like Kino, and I've done events at like Books Actually, and stuff like that. But there's also other stuff, like if you want to sell comics, there's the comic convention, but there's also other festivals where you can sell your comics. You look at the international market and see what you can do down there. And there's also other things where you're not exactly selling your book, but you're cultivating a culture of reading. And maybe that comes back to you. But like I've done talks in schools before, so St. Joseph's Institution International, and I've done talks at festivals like the All In Festival, which is a focus on young writers. And I go in there and I talk to them about, you know, stuff like, how I got published, and it's very it's very specific and almost like a little bit self-deprecating in a way, but it's self-deprecating in a way where I hope it makes writing relatable to the kids. The first talk I ever gave was at St. Joseph's International, and the talk was every mistake I've ever made and how I still became a published writer. And literally that was the basis of it. It's like, I did this and that was wrong. Okay, I learned that's bad. Don't do that. But at the same time, the students were looking and like, I might have made a mistake as well. And you cultivate that love for writing and creating in general and reading. But I mean, this is basically just a very long-winded way of me saying, you know, copywriting, yes, kind of got it down pat. In terms of promoting my books, I'm still learning. And I think it's very weird, but that learning process has been very fun for me.
But Alicia, for yourself, right? I mean, since you go into freelancing 9 months ago, right? Do you see any changes to your lifestyles? What are some of the challenges that you're still trying to cope till today?
I think the transition is about structure. Like, you know, in the organization, there's so many departments that are specialized in their own expertise. You have the IT department, the administrative department, and you just, you know, when you need help, just go to the department, get it sorted, and okay, done. But when you're on your own, you just need to, you know, push yourself to go and learn something and just to make it work. And I think because there is a lack of structure, people always say that, it's so good that, you know, you get to eat whatever you want, just do whatever you want. But I say no, I think I miss the structure and how you condition yourself every morning. Okay, I need to be at this place at 9 a.m. But because you have the, you know, the world to yourself, the schedule without, you know, any time management, like what Lee has said, you just don't know what to do. Sometimes you just like, you know, I feel that sometimes with structure and you know, when you get yourself busy, you're actually most productive that day. When you're too free and you just sort of, I want to do this. You can't be too emotionally driven to do things because it's never going to make you like productive and, you know, you're just not going to be consistent. So I think I miss the structure and I'm trying to, you know, build my own routine even though I'm just, you know, I got up. I try to, you know, make myself, you know, dress up and as if that you are approaching to a job, even though it's just your work desk. So I read this article about this professional blogger. She said it used to be a hobby, but when you realize that you're gonna monetize it and approach it as a career, you need to prepare yourself and approach this as your job. So you need to, you know, it may sound silly, but you need to dress up and sit down with your coffee and just do your work. And when it's time for you to take a break, you take a break. So yeah, I think that is the challenge that I face, to build a routine for myself and to be like disciplined. And also I think in terms of like, I mean, apart from like financial security, I think it takes a lot of like mental strength to get back up, because like there are always storms, like maybe just this year, like I lost to my grandma like along the way, and I think it's I think because of that flexibility, you just let yourself go and say, okay, maybe I'm just going to be sad for a while. But when it comes to other people, they just go to work as for now because they have X amount of free days to you know, compassionately to you know, attend to this. But they still go back to where life goes on. But for myself, you know, I'm just like flexible, and sometimes family, you know, they just expect you to be free because you're a freelancer. Yeah, so you're supposed to be there even though you have things to do. So there are things that, you know, you just have to let go and just prioritize like family first. And I think it took me a while to just get back up because of course emotionally you're down, and I think you just need to, you know, get back up and, you know, just keep going, because if you don't work, there's not gonna be any income for you, and no one's gonna know except for yourself. And so I think it takes a lot of like mental strength to and support. You need a good support system to you know, people who know you and to are willing to compromise like your flexibility in your schedules to, you know, to get me going. So I think I'm really thankful for like close group of friends that understand that, you know, there are times where I can just go out with them. Like I can't just say, oh, let's mark like this day, just go out. But when like, you know, opportunity comes out, like a shoot comes up, sometimes it's like, oh, tomorrow's a shoot and then I need a day to prepare. So then so I try not to you know, I just try to let people manage their expectations. So I think it's easier to just be honest and say that, oh, I can't really fix a date with you right now because my schedule is so fluid, and I have to prioritize my career now, because if I choose this is like my first priority, and people need to understand that.
So talking about family supports, do you face a lot of objection from your family when you first share with them your wish to go into freelancing, to quit a full-time job?
Definitely, like, I mean, as Asian parents, they're like, I think, they come out from good intention. They just want you to be sustainable. They don't want you to worry, like, oh, why are you working like 12 hours a day just for your wish, your passion? Is your passion's going to feed you, the type of thing? So, like, I think the whole freelancing is still new to them. And, I mean, they're still, like, you know, conservative, and I think it took me some time to explain to them, but I realized because I read this book and
you seem to be reading a lot.
I think reading helps me.
I'm totally all for this.
But there was a space that I just read more of like the self-help book, because it's more like a guide to you, because I think by the end of the day you feel a bit more uplifted reading these books, and people who wrote the book, they've been through like tough times as well, and they're just willing to share and help those who have, you know, came across at this juncture of like their life. So then I realized, I mean, like in this book that I read from this lady, so she said like every relationship with a person is unique, so you can't expect your husband to be your best friend, your advisor, your mentor. The person just going to be there as your husband, and if you need someone to understand what you're doing, just get maybe a mentor that you know has experienced it. So family, sometimes they may object to you know, your decisions, but I think you just need to go to the person for that relationship that you want to share with. So I think with family, it's just more of like the support that, you know, as long as they are okay, they have no objections of the work, then I think I just keep that relationship like, you know, unique, and that's just like how it is. Because I think sometimes we expect our parents to be understanding to this and that, but I think they still love you. But at the end of the day, if you want to go for like, let's say, career advice, you would just get someone that, you know, really understands and like, you know, can help you in a certain way.
So how about yourself, Wayne? Are you still facing challenges? What are the challenges that you face as a freelance copywriter?
Well, okay, first of all, my parents completely different in that sense, because they were, from the moment I told them I want to be a writer when I grew up, they're like, well, okay, as long as you can pay the bills. I was like, all right, cool, thanks. But my parents were they're very easygoing that way. They basically said, you know, do what you love. Just make sure you can support yourself. That's the most important thing. As a freelancer now, I still face challenges with time management. There are still times where I was going to ask you as well, like when you wake up in the morning and when you do your writing for the blog, or you do your photography for the blog and all that stuff, do you do any of your work at home? or do you always head out?
Okay, so there are times where I just go out.
Right.
Because like from the start, like I think the hardest part was like the first few months. Because I'm staying with my fiance and we used to work in the same. I mean, we met in universities, and so you go out to work and I'm just alone. I just really don't know what to do, and then you get distracted with social media, and then you just keep go on and on, and you realize that it's past 12 o'clock. Why am I still here in my PJs? So after that I realized, okay, if the place is not conducive, just go out to a cafe. At least the environment and the people around conditions you to, okay, I'm here with my laptop, I need to like at least pretend and eventually pretend, and you just get to work. And then at least you get something productive out of that. Even just 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean as well. Like in terms of the time management, like sometimes you just don't want to go out, or it's raining or whatever it is. There'll always be an excuse down there. And and that's what I found. Like I can write at home, but I produce more and stuff that I'm actually happier with when I'm outside a familiar environment. So I write, like I'll literally write anywhere. I've taken my laptop into like my core work. My boss is quite understanding about it. So I'll come in, and like if there's no work that day, he'll be like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "I'm just gonna write a story." And he's like, "All right, fine, whatever, your desk is over there." I'll work on my stories there, or I'll work in a cafe, or I'll work in a park, wherever it is. And I still find that time management is that issue, because there's that like kind of push and pull between like time management and that freedom. So there are days when I'm not as disciplined as I should be. And I still struggle with that. It's much better now than it was before, thankfully.
Because you're more mature?
Wiser,
maybe. Mature, well, that's a flexible term, that one. But no, I find that getting that momentum has helped. So once the first, like say for my books, once the first book was out, just keep going and going, and you don't want to stop. And there are times when, and it's a weird thing, because as much as you don't want to stop, sometimes you kind of do for a while. If writers write about the world, they write about people, they write about humanity, and if you're just writing, what are you going to be writing about? Writing? So there's that push and pull of doing the work, but also at the same time finding that time to go out there and live beyond the keyboard. And I think that's a struggle. I mean, there are also times when I'll just spend way too much money on vinyl records. So
Vinyl records?
on vinyl records. So yeah, that would be my guilty spending, and I'll go like, well, I really shouldn't have done that, should I? But yeah, of course, there's always going to be like the financial side of things. Sometimes I'll just cheat a little bit. But yeah, it's mostly that balance that I still work on in both sides.
Right. So now having experienced this career path, right? So what are some of the advice that you would give to a freelancer? Maybe Alicia can go first. What are some of the advice that you would give to freelancers who are just starting out? What are some of the important things that they must take note before they actually start their career?
I think the first thing, you have to be patient, and a lot of times you just cannot expect things to just come back to you like quickly. So I mean, right now I'm still learning how to be patient. And sometimes emails, everyone's gonna be busy, so you can't expect like, oh, I look forward to your reply, and then the person's just gonna reply you
the next minute.
So I think for that, and then you also need to factor like rainy days, so you need money, because it's always gonna be a stress factor in life, because you need to pay bills, and without money you'll be stressed, and everything just disrupts your whole lifestyle. And at the same time, you need to, I think health is super important when you're a freelancer, because your medical bills are not paid for, and you really need to take care of yourself. So I've been trying to keep myself healthy by sleeping like 7 to 8 hours a day, because I think sleep is important, because
that was something that you mentioned before the talk.
It's very very important. So health and fitness, I think this is the baseline of every like successful person, because I think if you don't take care of yourself, and when you have problems, your focus are on your paint. You don't have the energy to work on the real things that you really want to do. So I think being a freelancer, you just need to be patient, and you need to be hardworking. To a certain, hardworking, and just meet new people. Just go out there and experience things. They're always like like people keep producing stuff, but I think if you don't slow down and just realize that, okay, where I am now, like why am I doing this? I think sometimes it's good to just slow down and think about what you're doing and why you're doing this. So I think it's more like personal well-being is very important as well.
How about yourself, Wayne? What are the advice that you give to someone who's just starting out?
Have an outlet outside of what you do, even if not everyone's gonna have a job which they're super passionate about. Sometimes you just need to do the work. There's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just need to do the work. Writing stories, writing comics, that used to be my outlet, but that evolved. It's no longer just like, I can just write it for myself and that's it. It's a different facet of me that I put out to the world, and I want it to be the best that it can be. It's no longer just just whatever I want to write, I'll write. So I find other things. I'm far from the best photographer in the world. Far from it. Don't have a camera, use my phone, that kind of thing. But it relaxes me to go out and take photos, and that's my thing. Like, there's no pressure on that. I'm not selling this. I don't. So I think, to tie into the idea of mental health, have an outlet. Have not just your job, but have stuff that you're passionate about, and have that additional outlet as well. Just lead as full a life as you possibly can, and whatever you can afford to do. And I think that really does help with your mental health as well.
Right, great. Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Wayne and Alicia. But before I let y'all go, right, I have one last question that I'd like to ask you, which we asked, all our guests in the previous episode. And the question is, you can take some time to think about it, right? The question is, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, right, when you're just starting out, what would you say?
Oh no, you go ahead.
My younger self is never.
I know.
I think it's your question.
I was about to say that your answer would be really short. If I could give one piece of advice to my younger self,
what would that be? What would you say?
Enjoy the moment. I think whether it's anything that I've done in freelance copywriting, whether it's my books, you're so concerned about everything that's going to happen or everything that you're doing at the moment, that I look back at when my first book came out, and I was ridiculously happy and everything, but also that emotion was mixed up with, I got to promote the book. What about my second book? I want to do comics as well, and it's an excitement, yes, but at the same time, also, and on top of all that, you're thinking to yourself, will my book do well? Will people like it and all that? And I saw something that this author, Delilah Dawson, recently tweeted, and she said, manage your expectations for your first book. It's not going to be a bestseller. Chances are it's not going to be a bestseller. Chances are it won't get pushed. Chances are, if you're lucky, a couple of people will read it, and that's it. And I had all these expectations on myself. I had all these grand plans and all these things that I wanted to do, that I stopped, that I didn't take a moment to stop on that very first day that my book was in stores and go, that's me on a shelf. That's my name. I did it. And I think that's the piece of advice I'd give to my younger self. Make sure every once in a while you stop and you take stock of how far you've come, and quite frankly, especially in my case, how lucky I am that in all of humanity, I'm alive at this time, and I have the opportunities that I have to make books, to make comics, to do what I love for a living, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Alicia, how about yourself?
Your answer's gonna be super short, isn't it?
Not too long ago. Yeah, it's not too long ago.
Two weeks ago.
I think you just be yourself and stay true to yourself. No one, maybe along the way, people is gonna disagree with what you do, and you just need to know that you can't please everyone. And there are times where people come in and out of your life, and that's okay, because what matters is like people who stays with you right at this moment. Yeah, and then just be grateful for like what you have. Like one way and say you're able now. You're lucky that you get to do this, and you're still going strong and moving forward. So I think just be true and just let nature takes its course.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Alicia, again. Right. So I'll just do a bit of round up. Yeah.
Sure.
Right. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Freelance Creative Exchange. Subscribe to iTunes and leave us a review. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment, because we want to hear from you what you think. Let us know the questions or the freelancers you want to hear from next. Follow us on CreativeAtWork on Facebook page and Instagram. Join us next time for a brand new episode of Freelance Creative Exchange. Until then, right, I will see you. But before I go, maybe Alicia, you'd like to share with us your Instagram tag or IDs or something like that?
So my Instagram handle is PULP and Chow. So it's POUT and CHOW.
Right.
Yeah.
How about Wayne? How about your books again?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, very important. So look at all my books and all my comics. But if you're looking for where to find me, the place you should go is Wayne Ray Writes, WayneRewrites.com.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.